Hello, this is Shauna Burnett here, and I'm going to show you the projects we created for multimedia development this spring. Our first project is to explore the Creative Commons and to understand the different aspects of them, how to not infringe on others' work, and then also how to create some for our own work. It was very helpful in understanding the different rules and things that we're needing in our new digital age. The most common one that I would use would be the attribution non-commercial. So I could still get credit for my work. People can change it up however they want, and it would also be non-commercial. And I was actually able to use that one for one of my other projects in a different class, and I'll just show you the slide that I inserted that on. So down here in the bottom right-hand corner, I was able to add a Creative Commons license to one of my projects this semester. Our next project was a slideshow explaining the three main principles of visual design. We had to use the 6Ds from the solution fluencies to help us. So I chose a PBL video from the Buck Institute, Project-Based Learning. So I'm going to show you here my first slide. So I felt like I chose this video because I felt like it did a very good job at showing the different design elements of unity and proximity and emphasis. So using the 6Ds, also I'm going to mention this book, Literacy is Not Enough. We had to use this book to help us with each one of the projects that we did in the class this semester, which, by the way, I really enjoyed this book, and it really has helped me in the classroom this year. So the 6Ds were from the solution fluencies, and we had to first of all define what we were supposed to create, and define the parts of this project, so the different design elements. On the side of each one of my slides, I defined either unity or proximity or emphasis. And I felt like in the very first part of the video, they had a good graphic showing unity with all of the different parts that are essential for a good PBL project. At the end of the video, they also pulled this back in, showing unity, and I talked about how it helped with psychological closure. So it had a meaningful order to the video. At the end, they pull it back in, and then they summarize what they talked about throughout the video. And I'm going to pull up this slide to show you some of the different things. This slide kind of can show you unity, proximity, balance, all of that included, without some words covering the page. So in the video, they had everything very well color-coded. So for their first step in the process, it was color-coded in blue, launching your project. And then they would then tie it in and pull this back up, this graphic, and show you the next step with an arrow showing first step is built upon the next step. Now you can move on, and so on. And they would go to the third step and the fourth step. But each time they were talking about whatever step in the video, they would have it color-coded in red or blue or green or yellow. So I felt like that really helped the audience to be able to understand where you were and which section they were talking about throughout the video. They had very good color emphasis and contrast. The contrast was good. They have the white backgrounds that makes it really easy to read as you're going through the video. And then I pulled in this slide for perceptual forces because it shows a good depth of perception. Has a student working on their project, and their project is in focus at the front, and the student is kind of blurred in the background. So I thought that was really good. So I defined whatever it was that we were doing, perceptual forces or color or emphasis or unity, on the side of each slide. I used the 6Ds to discover the information from the video and take a screenshot and make sure I included that in my slide, helping to define perceptual forces or unity or emphasis, whichever one I was talking about. And then we used the Google Slides to help us design and deliver each element. At the end, when we were finished, we debriefed and we did peer reviews to help us make any changes that might need to be made or showcase the good parts that we thought were good on each other's projects, which I really enjoyed because I liked looking at other people's projects. And then for my project, I was able to get a little bit of input on how to change a couple of my slides around. I had maybe made a couple that were very similar, so I just combined them into one. So for our next project, we had to create our own logos, either representing you, yourself, or your family. And for this one, we used the 5 eyes from the creative fluencies, which I really enjoyed this project because it did allow us to be so creative. So first I identified what I wanted and who my audience was going to be. So for this one, I considered the class to be my audience, and I wanted them to get to know me a little bit better through my logo. So I wanted to make sure I included all of this text right here. And then I was inspired by this quote that I had found on Google and how I felt about education and teaching this year, and also what we're learning a little bit in these classes. So the logo inspired me, and then I was also inspired by the Canva website. Canva was just really user-friendly and fun to play around with and create. And I knew I wanted to include some of my favorite colors, so I wanted to have the pink and the blue background and the green and just kind of make it bright and cheerful. I made sure that all of the elements were easy to read, and I interpolated with my different ideas. Another one of the 5 eyes. And I played around with the colors that I love and thought about what I wanted to include. So I imagined the ideas in my head and the layout that I wanted, and tried to figure out a good way to lay out the text so that everything would flow and have good readability, I guess you would say. And then finally I inspected it to see if it was feasible, and I felt like for this project, or the definition of this project, it was feasible. And since then, though, I have found that you can't really resize this very much, so to add it to any of my work was going to be kind of difficult. So I went ahead and created a couple more logos, or another logo that was a little bit more simple and that could be resized somewhat to fit on some of my work for my other projects or other things that I design. So for our final project, we had to create a poster that had to have a photograph to help us develop some of our digital fluencies, and it had to have a focus and a message. So I took a picture and uploaded it to a website and kind of changed the depth of perception. I wanted the fence to be in focus and the field is kind of blurred in the background, so it looks as though the field kind of goes on forever. My focus was the quote up here at the top, again going along with what we've been learning in these classes. And my message was that I'm still learning, whereas the field kind of goes on forever. I'm going to move this down so you can see that the quote was from Michelangelo down here at the bottom. Again, I used Canva for my design and delivery method. And I uploaded the photo into Canva, and then I just played around with the different fonts and font colors. And I wanted to make sure that none of the quotes and the fonts didn't take away too much from the picture that's in my poster. So I really enjoyed all of the projects that we did in this class this semester. I feel like it's really me with the 21st century learning goals. The solution fluencies and finding solutions to the tasks with technology and through technology, and information fluency using the 5 eyes, and the creative fluency. Media fluency was probably my hardest one, creating this video. But and collaboration fluency was also huge because I felt like being able to collaborate with the peers through this class, and then also through peer reviews, was very helpful throughout this semester. So I hope you have enjoyed my video, and I had a good time this semester, and everyone have a good summer.